Here now to discuss is Seth Berenzweig. Seth, welcome.
Great to see you.
Great to see you. So what do you make of the latest statement from the White House on these legal battles?
Well, we all woke up this morning here in Washington to a little bit of drama. The Supreme Court apparently entered its emergency order at about 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not surprised to hear the response and the announcement from the White House. It's important, I think, to note that this is indeed a short-term pause. It is not a long-term loss. And what I mean by that is if you go back about a week ago, and as was noted on your show a while ago, it was ruled by the Supreme Court just a couple of days ago that the administration indeed has the authority to trigger these deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. All they have to do is to provide reasonable notice and opportunity to be heard. Now, let's fast forward to what happened last night. After several unsuccessful attempts by the ACLU attorneys to find judges at both the trial court level and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals level to take the case, they filed an emergency application to the United States Supreme Court. The order was issued at about 1 a.m. And here's what it says. It basically says that we're going to press pause on the process. The government will file its reply brief as soon as possible. I'm sure that they'll file it early this coming week. And at that point, then the court will make a determination of what to do. It has not issued any kind of a ban. It is a short-term pause. It's basically for a briefing schedule. And ultimately, I think, as we will see at the outcome of this, the alleged defects are probably things that could be remedied. The two main issues were it's going too fast and that some of the notices were not able to be read by these individuals because they don't speak English and these notices were in English. So these are things that could be remedied, but things will be moving quickly in the coming days.
Seth, are there any other legal avenues the Trump administration can take after the Supreme Court ruling overnight?
I don't believe that it has other avenues in the immediate sense, but they really have the on-ramp, which is really all that they need. If they can explain their position and have a little bit more clarity that they will turn square corners when they issue these notices, they will probably ultimately win this case. You know, one of the things that's so ironic about this issue is that it's being posited by advocates that are saying that we really need more due process so that we can have people who are in the United States that are being protected by unwarranted actions. But if the prior administration, frankly, had protected the southern border and didn't have members of TDA live on video camera with guns taking over multiple apartment buildings in cities like Aurora, Colorado, we wouldn't be here. Ultimately, when you fix a big problem, you're going to crack some eggs. It's a very serious issue, and the Supreme Court's taking a close look at it. They will need to turn square corners. But at the end of the day, this is really just a short-term setback for the administration and an issue that will probably be remedied within the next couple of days.
The Trump administration saying Kilmar Abrego Garcia, of course, the man mistakenly deported to El Salvador, will not be coming back to the U.S. despite the Supreme Court ruling that the administration must work to facilitate bringing him back home. Seth, I'm curious, you're back to the United States. What happens if the administration keeps defying these legal rulings?
Well, I wouldn't quite say that they're defying a ruling. What they would argue, and I believe that they are, is that when the Supreme Court ruled on this particular matter, they remanded it back saying that the administration does not need to implement the return, but they need to do everything they can to facilitate it. Now, what does that mean? That's like talking about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. But I'm not exactly convinced that the administration is in violation of a court order right now. I think, again, they didn't turn square corners with Garcia, and they'll probably need to work that out. It's interesting that the briefs for the emergency papers to the Supreme Court last night noted the Garcia case saying, hey, justices, if these problems occur and someone inadvertently ends up improperly in El Salvador, the administration's saying that there's nothing that we can do about it. I think that's something that really is going to be a little bit of a thorn in the administration's side. That's something that will also be developing quickly. But right now, it's all about what process is due for a notice and right to be heard. It's called a habeas hearing. These are things that can be remedied, and these will be the issues that we'll be drilling into in the coming couple of days here in Washington.
The president has spoke on the dispute over whether Abrego Garcia is a dangerous member of the MS-13 gang. Here's what he said.
Is an illegal alien MS-13 gang member and foreign terrorist. In 2019, Garcia was issued a deportation order. Two separate judges affirmed Garcia was a member of MS-13, which is a gang that may be even worse than Tren de Aragua. When Garcia was originally arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money pouring out, an MSD and an MS-13 gang symbol that he was driving with two other known violent MS-13 gang members. In 2020 and 2021, Garcia's wife filed for a protective order from him and said he was violent and abusive and really scary, including allegations that he punched and scratched her on the eye, left her bleeding after throwing her laptop on the floor at her, ripped her shirt, and ripped off her shorts.
I want to mention Patty Morin. She's the mother of Rachel Morin. Just for our viewers, that's the Maryland woman murdered by an illegal migrant in 2023. She spoke at the White House earlier this week about her senator's efforts, Van Hollen, to bring Abrego Garcia back to the U.S. Here's what she said at the White House.
To have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do?
So these accusations have legal precedent, Seth?
Absolutely. You're shedding light on a very critical dissonance of what's happening right now, and it foots back with something we were talking about just 1 minute ago. If this is about law and order, why does Senator Van Hollen care more about going to visit somebody in El Salvador in a prison who ultimately will probably get a habeas hearing, but there's some significant evidence against him? Why would he rather make a photo op in El Salvador with someone who is affiliated with a group who is alleged to have committed murder rather than visiting his constituent? This is really very heart-rendering and really goes to the heart of a lot of what we're talking about here. The reason why the Trump administration is moving quickly is because there is a real problem that it inherited from the prior administration. This is an emergency. The Supreme Court would not have allowed these actions to be moving forward under the Alien Enemies Act if they were not convinced that the process is correct and that the president is right on the substance of this. So you're shedding a really important light on exactly what these issues are all about. There are some instances where they're going to have to circle back and turn square corners, but there's no question that the administration has an obligation to protect American citizens, to keep them safe. People will get due process. They have a habeas hearing. There will be some adjustments, but this is a really important moment in the history of the United States when it comes to domestic and national security.
Attorney Seth Berenzweig, thank you again.
Thank you.